evening.
So Roger, we're here at
Amazonico. Welcome to the jungle.
Let's go. Love it here.
Let's do it.
It's my first time.
The thing I love about Amazonico is that the food is this combination of Japanese and Brazilian flavors, and I love both types of cuisine. I even do, like I told you, my show called Sanchez Eats the World. I love the dinners that I've had here. This is the proper Miami tropical vibe. They always have these amazing kind of Latin and Cuban or Brazilian bands playing jazz. And the jazz bands are amazing. Sometimes they'll be playing like salsa or like son. But they definitely have a lot of the jazz bands. So the musicality is one of the things that they've really focused on getting in real players.
You got into jazz a little bit, like little jazz house back in the day, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
when I first started producing music, my influences were obviously Latin music, but soul and jazz connected to disco and even some Brazilian music. Those were all elements. And kind of the first early tracks that I released on Strictly Rhythm Record with Underground Solution, Love Dancing, that was a very jazzy influenced track. So jazz has always been kind of one of the kernels that are living in the heart of my music. From when I was younger, listening to both salsa and other Latin bands, Latin jazz was a very big influence. Hip hop, when it first started coming out of New York City, I was definitely in high school as that was coming up. So that's a big part of kind of like my DNA.
Yeah.
And disco, soul, and funk, all of that really kind of, that's the sound of block parties to me in New York City. So those are the things that I kind of came up with. And as an early age when I first started DJing, those are my go-to sounds. Basically anything that rocks the party. You can't go wrong with Latin drums, and you can't get wrong with a bit of disco. I didn't start out to become a DJ or to get into the music business. I really thought my career was going to take me in either illustration or architecture. But from when I was 13 years old, I was also into dancing and then got into break dancing. So the culture of music, because of being a dancer, that's what made me want to then go into the music, because I came from being this place of being the dancer on the dance floor to wanting to control the dance floor.
Oh, really?
And my dad, who's an engineer, he's the one who actually sat me down and said, you know what? I see you paying a lot of attention, a lot of time to this music thing. If that's what you love, you need to follow what you love. Don't be an architect because you think it'll make me happy. This is your life, not mine. So do what makes your heart happy. And that, for me, is what gave me the permission to follow that aspect of it. The reason you do it has to be because you love doing it.
Right.
As opposed to, well, you know, I know I can make a lot of money on this. I think the money follows the love.
Right.
So if you dedicate more time to it, you will find a way to make that become what feeds you. But you have to feed your soul first.
You weren't born in Miami, right? So what brought you here? Like what give me that story.
So I've been coming to Miami for many, many years. I used to play at Space back in the day here. I've always loved Miami, but I'm so much of the New Yorker that I was like, okay, you know, it's a great place to visit. And then a few years ago, I met my wife. At that point in time, we had started dating. And I said, you know what? I think this really, really works. Let me give Miami a shot to live in. And I've been here ever since. I think all Latin cultures, whether it's Puerto Rican, Cuban, but especially like from the islands, it really connects here in Miami. And I think because the temperature is similar, the topography is similar, it kind of gives you a reflection of being back on an island. So that's one of the things I love about Miami. For me, the ability to go from being on the dance floor to then now looking at the dance floor, I think it really brings home to me how we as as things that exist, we all vibrate. Everything vibrates at a frequency. Music is a particular vibration that tends to help people resonate together. And for me, wanting to cause that resonance and being in the DJ booth as opposed to being a dancer on the dance floor, it's like two opposite ends looking in a mirror from two ways, as if I'm looking out at the person who's, when I'm on the dance floor, looking at the person who's reflecting out to me, or when I'm looking at the mirror and the crowd reflects back to me. All that is resonance, and for me, that's why everything connects through music. We all vibrate on a particular frequency.
Yeah, and I love that too, because the origins of the name Alpha Theta is actually just frequencies.
Absolutely.
Alpha waves, theta waves combined together, right? And it's basically flow state.
For me, music is so emotional because it can connect people, but that's how you make people vibrate in a certain frequency.
Tomorrow night, I believe you're playing at Rosa Negra.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm stoked for that, man. That'll be awesome.
Looking forward to it. I think for me, I started making music to have things to play in my sets that nobody had. And I kind of wanted to have these unique tracks that only I had. And the transition was natural, but actually learning how to make records was a craft unto itself. So DJing kind of bled into that.
And so has your style changed over the years, would you say?
Yeah, I think my style has definitely changed along with technology. When I first started DJing, it was all about vinyl. I started off really learning how to be a hip hop DJ, kind of playing what we call a hip hop DJ from the technical skills of scratching and cutting, playing soul and disco. And then as the technology progressed, it developed into me not only playing 2, then 3 vinyls, 3 turntables, and then with CDJs over the years, that developed as like a 4-deck live remix technique. So it's evolved over time.
How would you sort of describe your sound nowadays?
It's an interesting one because for me, I have elements of Latin and tribal in my sound. There's definitely deep house and kind of techno tech house element into it. The only thing I gotta say is it's house.
Yeah.
Probably it's the all-encompassing thing because I can go very deep tribal, African flavors, Brazilian flavors, Latin flavors. Definitely the Latin element is a thread that feeds through everything that I do. That's just kind of part of my heritage. But it really is house and it's different flavors that kind of combine in my sound. To me, it all just comes down to how can I take music in recorded form and utilize that in a way to create a very unique experience in the moment. And that really comes from like the hip hop technique of building and creating sets. And then it's turned into a live remixing for me. So I'll take elements of different tracks and I'll kind of create my own remix on the spot. Now, what I will say is that the technology allows you to do different things. There are things that I do on vinyl, and there's a way that it sounds. It's a bit different from the digital realm, but there are things that I can do with digital technology that I can't do on vinyl. There's a certain amount of layering, and there's just certain technical aspects that allow me to do something different with my performance. But in the end, it's literally how do I take these elements and create a moment.
Thinking back to a lot of the tech that you helped develop with Pioneer DJ, AlphaTheta, was there a unit that we released that really changed or unlocked a new chapter for you as an artist?
Well, when the first CDJ 1000 came out, and it had transitioned from the CD manipulation of the tracks and the music to emulating the vinyl scratching and the way that it tracked on vinyl. That to me was a game changer, because a lot of the technique that I would use from my hip hop days, it was one of the things that I was missing in the CDJs prior to that iteration. You know, you couldn't really scratch. There were some looping things. It was a lot of fun, but there were some missing elements. Once that came into the picture, and then they brought it to me in the kind of beta stage when they were still kind of working it out and there was still a little bit of time lag, but just the fact that they managed to crack that scratching effect and the vinyl platter hold, that was a game changer to me, because it really brought back an aspect of my technique that I wasn't utilizing in CDs.
You identify as a tech head.
Yes.
I have some good intel that you've been working with Pioneer DJ, AlphaTheta, since the dawn of time, the early 90s, right?
From the very first time that Pioneer entered into creating DJ equipment, I've been working with them in Japan. And the first product that they were showing me was the CDJ 500. And based on what they had, their first prototypes were, they said, well, what would you like to see on this that's not here? And that really became kind of like, you know, creating the toy that I want to play with. And it started from that 500, and I've been involved with Pioneer in various different products that they've done over the year. And I always appreciate the fact that they'll come to me and say, well, what do you think of this? And is there something here that you would like to see that you don't see? I've sketched out ideas for them. And that's kind of really what my relationship has been with Pioneer AlphaTheta since they started.
So fast forward to the most recent product, the 3000X.
Yes.
What did you want to see on the 3000X? What was the feature that you requested?
Well, from the very beginning, I always said, man, you know, I wish the screen were bigger. You know, my eyesight's going. No, I really wanted to have a screen that was more detailed, and that really, the earlier models, the writing was so small and it was just harder to see. They really expanded the screen and made it also touch sensitive so that you could actually do really interesting things on there. The other thing that I really wanted them to really develop more was the loop banks and giving me more layers of that. And I like the way they laid it out now. It just seems more like a sampler. It's a little bit more intuitive. And for myself, I love to layer things, and being able to kind of access different acapellas, vocal samples very, very quickly. It really sped up with the 3000X. And I also think that the paging is so much faster now. You know, I could jump ahead to 4 or 5 tracks ahead and really start mapping it out in my head, what elements I want to layer in. And I think those are some of the kind of core things that I wanted from the 3000, saying, oh, well, this is how you can improve on this, which is already dope, but now how can we move this forward?
Yeah, and you know, I noticed that every version that we develop, things just get faster and faster and faster. And so the 3000X, I mean, is lightning fast.
And one of the things that I think helps me move my sets forward is my ability to kind of plot 4 or 5 tracks or 6 tracks ahead. and being able to kind of load these tracks up quickly as I'm going across 4 decks. When there's a time lag, it means I'm kind of constantly waiting for things to catch up, but now it's so much faster. So, and if something doesn't work, I can quickly switch out of it.
With your roots, from the DR, how do you bring that technically into your music?
For me, including Latin elements in my music really connects back to the core of who I am, where I came from, kind of like my ancestral roots. So there'll be congas, timbales, all these different Latin elements and a particular groove and a rhythm that comes through, not only in the tracks that I play, but the tracks that I make. And that really connects with my audience when I'm playing. That's always been one of the things that I've heard from people that come to my sessions. Like, I really feel that Latin aspect of you coming through the music. For me, One Through Music really is about connectivity. When I'm playing, I'm connecting to various sources. One, which is internal source, the music that my mind is kind of driving me to play as I'm connecting with the audience. So it literally is an electric line of communication that can connect universally. My sets always have an emotional aspect to them, and I feel that's where I can connect to my audience on like the deepest level. Not necessarily knowing everyone by face or by name, but I do know them vibrationally. And I think that One Through Music is that. It's that connection and the vibration. That's when we all resonate. There just seems to be such an expression of that Latin culture here in Miami that's inherent. And I think it's because it reflects kind of like the temperature and the nature that you'll find in a lot of these Caribbean islands. Playing here in Miami, being one with the culture, with those Latin roots, really comes out in my sets here.
Well, Roger, thanks so much. This has been a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Go down.